The U.S. men's national team wrap up a magnificent 4 days in Las Vegas, which is something I've never been able to say about myself. 2 days into Vegas, I'm usually on the phone and the airlines. Can I get on standby? I need to get out of here. I need to get out of here. That's not Vegas's fault. That's my fault. It's just overdoing it once I arrive. But we're not talking about that. The United States men's national team repeat as Nations League's champions, and they do it from going in 2021, where they kind of squeaked by, to 2023, where they destroyed the field. You just don't see this as a USA Soccer fan, right? You just don't see that kind of domination. USA, 3 goals on Mexico, completely undressed them. Has everyone in... listen, I tune into Mexican press a lot. I'm watching Línea de Cuarto and Fútbol Picante, ESPN Deportes, Televisa. I watch it all. I watch it all the time. It was like a funeral procession on there. And that was... obviously they're not happy with Diego Coca, but that's also the USA's handiwork. And for the record, I know everyone is enjoying the demise of the Mexican Federation. I, for one, don't want to see that. I want the USA to beat Mexico, but I don't want Mexico to go whoop, because we need them. Case in point, look at the optics of the Nations League without Mexico. Mexico in the third place game, none of the fans showed up. We're talking about a ton of money going out of the coffers. And I know it's not all about money, but even that final, and look, this is on the USA too. I'm going to talk about that and how far we have to come as a soccer country, because that wasn't good enough. To see a performance like that and pretty much fall on deaf ears and blind eyes in this country is a real shame, because that was spectacular. Yes, the USA won the 2021 edition. They smashed the 2023 edition. They beat Canada 2-0. They were up early. They had to deal with suspensions. Gio Reyna was probably their best player in this game. He had to leave at halftime, so they had to deal with that, and they still had chance after chance after chance. They had their backup fullback, Joe Scally, marking Alphonso Davies and doing a really good job at it. By the way, hats off to Joe Scally, because he died on his sword out there, because eventually marking Davies is going to wear you out, and he had to be pulled out. So today on the Soccer OG, check out the Soccer OG podcast, where all podcasts are available. We'll have a post-Nations League extravaganza edition tomorrow, being Monday. You might be watching this on a Monday, so today. And check out the Soccer OG here on YouTube under my name, Max Bretos. Like and subscribe that. We've had massive numbers on subscriptions, so I appreciate that over the last 4 days while the U.S. men's national team would be Vegas. We're in Vegas, so like and subscribe. Hit that button. Sorry about my voice, just clearing out all the junk from being sick. I'm okay, and I've been traveling a lot, so I need a few Z's, which I'll be getting after this video. Do I look a little... I know I look a little tired, but it's not going to stop me from doing a video. So let's get into the game. This was the starting 11. Serginho Dest, Weston McKennie out for suspension. I thought Canada was going to win because of that, plus they got Alphonso Davies, plus all of the distractions with the Gregg Berhalter appointment, but there's nothing stopping this group. Really amazing. Matt Turner, who doesn't get enough credit, made some key saves here over these last 4 days. Jedi Robinson, Walker Zimmerman, along with Chris Richards. Zimmerman played a really nice game. Chris Richards was outstanding. Zimmerman coming in for Miles Robinson. Joe Scally on the right, so there were 3 changes to the lineup. Musa was the low-lying midfielder. Brendan Aronson and Gio Reyna up top. And Gio dropping back a lot and looking very effective. Flo Balogun and Christian Pulisic and Tim Weah up at the top of the attack. So, they scored early off a set piece. They got set piece after set piece after set piece. Gio took most of them. He looked great. The goal he assisted in. Chris Richards heads it home. Canada's marking was terrible. It was a good corner kick, but it just allowed Richards to get underneath it. And Milan Borjan, the Canadian keeper, stayed on his line and got just absolutely throttled. The gap between USA and Canada, we talked about Canada winning the octagonal, which was an incredible achievement. They got a little... they started drinking their own Kool-Aid. There's no doubt about it. I mean, Canada's very good, and they have a bright future, but they have some issues. And look, we talked about John Herdman, and everyone's going, we want John Herdman for the United States men's national team. Are you kidding me? I mean, that guy had his lunch eaten today. He's a good coach, but pump the brakes. No, not coming here. I'm going to try and keep it positive because it's been very frustrating being on... it's so much fun watching these games and being on Twitter and exchanging ideas with everyone. But everyone's, everyone's so caught up and looking back. I'm going to try and give you my thoughts on Gio Reyna. Gio Reyna was in a bad place in last winter. He was also, a teenager. Gregg Berhalter handled it very poorly, and Gio Reyna should have had a bigger role in this in that World Cup. But if you look around the World Cup field, how many players, 20 and younger, are playing decent roles? You could count them on two hands. I'm dead serious. It just doesn't happen. That's not what national teams do. We are seeing the development of Gio Reyna. He is a different guy. If you want to argue with me from 6 months ago, he's a different guy. He has gone through hell and high water with all of this off-the-field issues. He's more comfortable in his skin. He's more comfortable in his play. This is the process. This was always the process of having a team in 2022 and building a team that could really compete in 2026. Did we not see that in Las Vegas? Gio Reyna could have played. If he didn't, it's not out of the ordinary. We're a teenage player. And Joe Scally, people are going, why is Joe Scally starting? I'm like, our fullbacks were amazing at the World Cup. Joe Scally is being groomed for 2026, which is something we've said for a while. So many of these young players, it's such a different team from the beginning of World Cup qualifying to the end of the World Cup to now. Different team. And I want to say this, because people are also tweeting, as soon as Gregg Berhalter left, look at what changed. I didn't want Gregg Berhalter to come back. I thought it was a really bad look for U.S. soccer. I'm going to get used to it, but I believe that they did the work. They looked at the data with talking to the players and everything else, said, I know we're going to eat some crow on this one, but let's bring him back because we believe this is our best bet. B.J. Callahan and Anthony Hudson were part of Gregg Berhalter's staff. If you think that what we saw in Las Vegas happens just because a coach is moved, you are clueless on sports. This is a process from the beginning of World Cup qualifying where these guys were wet behind the ears and terrified of this to being a well-oiled machine going through the World Cup experience. Gregg Berhalter oversaw that. You've got to... He allowed this to happen. Maybe B.J. Callahan was in charge from the beginning. Maybe he would allow it to happen. But you don't just say, oh, Gregg Berhalter's out. Now all of a sudden these guys can be their normal self. This is a process. This takes months. This takes years. What we saw today is the results of what has happened over 2 years. It is. These guys look different. They came out and smashed Canada on the nose. They did that to Mexico. They have outgrown CONCACAF. The USA they have Copa America next summer. They got to look forward to that because this CONCACAF thing, they're not going to get, it's clear as day. The Gold Cup, we'll see, it's a different team, but in big games with your first team, and this was your first team, the USA is a lot better. And I think that gap's just going to grow. Everything that's happened in American soccer, for all our flaws, and there are many, I know it. And by the way, I'll tell you a big flaw in a couple minutes. Stick around. I'm going to tell you a huge flaw that we have to change because it's really getting me upset the way we do this. And this is on U.S. soccer and their partners. Where all our flaws, going to MLS and developing so many of these players. Gio Reyna and Joe Scally were on the New York City FC Academy. I'm not giving them all the credit, but it gave them a starting point. From the FC Dallas guys to being able to recruit the dual nationals because they see such an appealing situation. All of this has gone into the pot. We're doing things well. We're doing them so much better than our neighbors in CONCACAF. To the point where you have to realistically say, we are better equipped to be in CONMEBOL with Brazil and Argentina and Uruguay and Ecuador. We're that level. I mean, I don't want to be Pierce in the moment, but I mean, that team was, everyone they threw in there, it continued to show a class above. And there's other guys coming through the pipe, and we're going to see a proof of concept, and this is going to keep feeding into it. By the way, I want to say this about Tyler Adams. I mean, Tyler Adams, we kept saying how important he is, and he is, but he's got to be looking at these two performances saying, am I just going to slide right back in? I don't think he is. I think he still does. But, you're finding ways to manage that midfield with the players that you have. And you have a lot of good ones. It was Brendan Aronson, Gio Reyna, and Yunus Musa. Where is the defensive wherewithal there? Where is the ball distribution? Well, it got there. Musa very quietly was very good. So, Tyler Adams, you don't just stamp him in there. I'm sorry. We didn't have Tyler Adams. We didn't have Tim Ream. Tim Ream's got to be looking at a guy like Chris Richards and saying, Chris Richards was superb, not just with the goal, didn't make a mistake. He was destined to be growing into this position. He is growing into it. He wasn't ready a year ago. By the way, all these guys have to find new clubs where they can play all the time. That really blew me away, how locked in this group was when Chris Richards and Christian Pulisic and Gio Reyna, and even the guys like Joe Scally weren't playing as much down the stretch, weren't playing. Remember, we talked about it right here on the Soccer OG. I was concerned. It didn't look like they were out of favor. And the world is watching them perform. And they're going to find better clubs here in the beginning of the season in 2023. And Chris Richards, my goodness, so good. What Miles Robinson was great. Walker Zimmerman was great. Our center backs were just flawless. Our fullback play was really, really good. Our midfield was lock, stock, and two smoking barrels. And Flo Balogun gets his first goal. He was okay in the first game, and I'm not judging him. He was getting adapted to a new thing. He should have had 2, maybe 3 goals, but he had the one. It was very nice. Gio Reyna assisting on both of them. Gio Reyna had complete control of this game. And I just don't want to keep looking back. I don't want to keep looking back. I will be shocked. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but when Gregg Berhalter comes back, Gio Reyna, Gregg's been overseeing this in some capacity, right? He's on the phone all the time to Callahan and Hudson. This is I don't think he's going to be rigid like he was. This is the evolution. You play to your strengths. And Gio Reyna is going to be a big part of this team. I think Gio knows that, and Gregg knows that. He's too good. So, we could keep looking back, but why? If it goes pear-shaped with Gregg, it goes pear-shaped. But we've got this team, and you've got to give him a little sliver of credit, at the very minimum, for getting this team to where they can look like this. This doesn't happen by magic. This is not a David Copperfield act. So Balogun scores. Christian Pulisic scored the 2 goals against Mexico. He was involved. Tim Weah was bustling through time and time again. Luca Della Torre, who I thought should have started, came in. He was influential for Brendan Aronson. I'm sorry, I thought he should have started over Brendan Aronson. He came in for Gio. Johnny Cardoso, who's got the Johnny on his back, in for Brendan Aronson. And then Pepe for Balogun. I think Trusty came in late too. And they didn't have a lot of defenders, so we knew who was going to play. And across the board, everyone passing grades. Not everyone, but enough to see where this team, which is still very young, 23 years, 314 days, the youngest USA starting 11 for a final. Musa, Reyna, Scally, first trio of 20-year-olds to start. This is from USMNT Twitter handle. So the kids, but they're not getting 23 is not 19. 2021 is not 19 or 18. Nobody's playing young players at World Cups. Very few. You have Gavi and Pedri and Musiala, who didn't play great. But then you don't. There's guys are in their 30s, mid-30s. World Cup is for the veterans. You can take a risk of playing young players, but we've been having World Cup since 1930. Generally, they don't play young players. You let them build into it. It's beautiful because I'm seeing the process before my very eyes, and you're seeing that grow. So, excellent. Another trophy. USA completely deserved it. I want to say, Canada, Canada's got to be disappointed, and they got to look at themselves. They've had some issues as well. Mexico finished third, by the way. Those issues aren't going to go away. They had to grind against Panama. USA is pulling away. Okay, this is what I wanted to challenge. This is my takeaway from what we saw. We were all riveted watching these games going, this is spectacular. Pulisic and Reina and Balogun, it was Autobahn football, running, scoring, passing, combining. Unfortunately, 95% of the U.S. population, and I know a lot of people just tune in for the World Cup, have no idea. It's one thing to not watch the games. It's another thing to have no idea this was going on. I tweeted that, and I got texts from a bunch of ESPN colleagues going, I had no idea that game was on. This is on U.S. Soccer. They don't market these games. They don't market these players. We're not watching on TV. It's on Paramount, which does a great job with soccer, but most people don't have Paramount. You can watch it on TUDN. I watched it on TUDN. I enjoy their broadcast. But if you don't speak Spanish, it can't be a good experience. We are not doing a good job. And it's not Paramount's fault, and it's not anyone's fault, but we've got to look at what we have here. And we've got to do better storytelling. Maybe it's our fault in the media. Probably is. But we just don't have enough. People aren't watching. People don't care. Americans love winning. Americans love pulling for their country. They would love this team. We've got to show that to the masses. And we are failing miserably. I cannot believe we are in our echo chamber. We're all excited, but nobody's watching. That's a real shame. That's a real shame. I'm going to save my voice. We'll come back and we'll continue. We'll get ready for the Gold Cup. I have a little vacation coming up too, so you may not see me for a little bit. But check us out here on the Soccer OG under my name, Max Bretos. Check out all the videos. Like and subscribe us. Check out the Soccer OG podcast where all podcasts are available. Hit that like button. Lift another trophy, baby. Bring on the Copa America. I have us as a real threat. Real threat. Semi-final at minimum.